Hey guys, welcome back to Bibliophile Reads. I'm Courtney and you're joining me for another weekly wrap up. I am really enjoying the wrap ups and it was so necessary this week because I was so busy. Most of my work I can do from home, but this week I had 3 days in person and everybody's been like, that's nothing. I hear you and I get that, but when you're not used to like getting up, getting dressed under a time crunch with makeup, with hair, the whole thing, it was exhausting, so I would not have been able to keep up with the vlog anyway. However, lots did happen reading-wise and book-wise, so happy to go over that with you guys. So let me start with some books that I purchased this week, and then I will go over what will I do? I will go over what I read this week. Now, the books I won't include in this video will be any new middle grade books that I picked up because I'm doing another video that'll come out on Thursday of my middle grade May TBR. If you didn't check out my video that came out on Wednesday, so we're talking about middle grade May. I love middle grade May. I did not come up with middle grade May. I heard it from Storm Reads, but I know there's a whole group of people that have their own like sort of pathway that they're doing. And I'm not wanting to take credit for that, just saying I love middle grade May and thought I'd make a bingo board. So in my video, you can do that. There's so many ways you can participate in middle grade May. But I highly encourage it because there's so many great middle grade books out there. And I honestly believe that middle grade books have some of the best plot lines because as I'm finding, and I've said it a million times, I'm trying to diversify my reading this month or this year because romance books are getting a little predictable for me and I just can't keep doing it. And so I love that middle grade has so many different angles and so many different plot lines. So yeah. Okay, so I will talk about middle grade books in a separate video. Make sure you check that one out. But let's start for this week. Okay, so the first, not in any order. One book I picked up was Real Americans by Rachel Khong. This was also one of the Book of the Month Club picks. I didn't pick it. I picked the Christina Lauren book and I didn't do an add-on this time. But my coworker, who's also an avid reader, had mentioned that she picked this one up because she thought it was going to be a good story. And I went to Barnes and saw it. They had an exclusive edition with the lotus flowers on the side. And I decided I would pick it up because it's a different story than I would normally read. I'm trying to get more into lit fiction and yeah, we'll try it. So this one says, Real Americans begins in New York City on the precipice of Y2K when 22-year-old Lily Chen, an unpaid intern at a slick media company, meets Matthew. Matthew is everything she is not, poised, confident, and most notably, heir to a vast pharmaceutical fortune. Lily, the only child of scientists who fled Mao's Cultural Revolution, was raised in Tampa and is flat broke. Despite their differences, Lily and Matthew fall in love. In 2021, 15-year-old Nick Chin feels like an outsider on the isolated Washington Island where he lives with his single mother, Lily. He can't shake the sense she's hiding something. When Nick sets out to find his biological father, the quest threatens to raise more questions than it provides answers. In immersive, moving prose, Rachel Khong weaves a profound tale of class and striving, race and visibility, and family and inheritance, a story of trust, forgiveness, and finally coming home. Exuberant and explosive, grand and entertaining, Real Americans is an inquiry into the forces that roil our new century. Are we destined or made? And if the latter, who gets to do the making? This really sounded interesting. It didn't sound as interesting on the website of Book of the Month, but sometimes we're highly influenced by what our friends are reading, and this is one of those instances. And then when I read it at the Barnes and just now, it just sounds really interesting. And it kind of speaks to the Asian American experience, but also just the experience of people of color and like that last question of who gets to do the making, who's made versus destined. And so I'm excited to get into this. Looks like very long chapters. I'm not gonna let that deter me. But this is the book and it's just beautiful. So I picked that up. And then I picked up the new book, Powerful. This is the novella from Lauren Roberts. She wrote the book Powerless, which I also picked up a copy of. I've already read Powerless, but I did not have a physical copy. I read it on my Kindle, which was an amazing way to read it. However, this is a collection that I want to have, so I decided I would get this along with Powerful, and then when the new book comes out, Reckless, I will add that. So I'm not rereading this. I just wanted it on my shelf. But Powerful is the new one, right? I wasn't expecting it to be this small. It is literally like a little book. If you ever read the book The Secret, this reminds me of The Secret and the size of that. But this is a side quest story. So it says, Adina and Peyton have always been inseparable. Fate brought them together when they were young, but friendship ensured they would always protect each other and the home they built in the slums of Loot Alley. But now Peyton, an ordinary, has been selected for the purging trials, which means almost certain death. So that's all from Parlous. Now alone on Loot, Adina must fend for herself. After she attempts to steal, a mysterious man from the market comes to her rescue. Mac's shadowy past and secretive power set him apart from the other low-level elites of Loot. And as the pair team up to see their loved ones before the trials, the quest tests their loyalty, their love, and their lives. So very excited about that. And I, like, just reading it, you just automatically go back into that world and how much I loved it. The cover is so nice. And so I'm here for it. I'm sucked into this fantasy world. So I picked that up. And then the last book that I purchased is actually one of the books that I read this week. So we'll start with that review. So against all of my better judgment, I picked up the book Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I picked this up mostly because I was looking for a great, quick read. And I've been really into, this is so superficial, but really into floppy books where I can like fold, and it was giving that vibe. And so I was like, okay, let's just read it and let's see what it's about. Also, my oldest was like, she kind of wanted to read it, and I was like, well, let me just vet this first. I know there's some people that let their kids read any and everything, like eighth graders reading Colleen Hoover and all that. That's not me. It'll never be me. So I was like, let me vet this and read it first to see if it's even appropriate. And she's 16, but like, we're not. If you are going to read a smutty book, you're going to have to buy it with your own money outside of my house. So I had to read this first to see if it was good or appropriate. So first, it's not appropriate for her. It's definitely an adult book. But this book follows, what are the names? Emmy and Luke. And Emmy is coming back to her hometown, which is really one of my favorite tropes. And the girl comes back to her hometown. And she is like a barrel rider, so like a horse rider, and she's been like a competitive horse rider, but she got injured and hasn't told anybody, so she's coming back home. And Luke never left home. Luke is her brother's best friend, and he's kind of just around. Their family owns a ranch, and so we have Emmy sort of finding herself and her reigniting her love for horse riding. Luke is helping to facilitate that. And of course, they have major chemistry and are very much in love with each other. I ended up giving this 2 stars. The reason why is because, one, I'm not in a place of loving romances right now, so I will just put that out there. But this one in particular was just very specifically written in the key romance way, right? It was following a formula, and I could read into that formula very, very early into the book, and so I just was not interested in finding out what was going on. Generally, I like the idea of the girl coming back to her hometown, falling in love with sort of like her nemesis, or like a high school ex, or like rekindling. I like that trope a lot, but this one just didn't hit. I don't know what it was. There was a lot of farming and country in this, which obviously, so that didn't hit for me either. It's just not my lived experience, and so it just, I was good on it. I don't think, yeah, I was good. I would not recommend this book to people that I know their reading style, but if you are just looking for a real quick, fluffy, sort of fluffy with some adult content, go for it. But it is like the epitome and prototype of the basic romance novel. So I give that 2 stars. Then this week I also read, which again, these are not in order because the last book I got to go in on. So the next book that I read was Jesse's Babysitter. This is book number 36. Now, I picked this up because I was looking for a quick read after I finished Done and Dusted, because I was just like, I I was still in the mood to read, but it was not a hit. And so I picked up book 36. Now, I am reading the Babysitters Club books, rereading them in order. Loved them as a kid, loved them as an adult. I used to cherry pick out the ones that I like because I am a Stacy girl. As a kid, I was more of a Mallory and Marianne. I loved those two characters. As an adult rereading them, I'm all Stacy all the time, except when she's boy crazy because she's ridiculous. But also Mallory and Marianne just seem so immature. So whatever. Anyway, I picked up this one, but it's out of order because I needed to read the super special before I read this one, but that's okay. I'm going to give myself grace and I'm going to go back to the super special, but I did knock this out in one night. Now, I don't have too much to say about it. I gave this book a 4, and this book is really about the dynamics change in the Ramsey household. So, since the Ramseys have been in Stony Brook, the dad has worked and the mom has stayed home. And now the mom's getting a job, and to help with some of the domestic things around the house, Jesse's dad's sister, Cecilia, comes in to help manage the household. However, this does not sit well with Jesse because Jesse was expecting that if her mom was going to be home, that she would just pick up more responsibilities within the house. She has lots of experience with the little brother, and she was just ready to like dig in, but her mom said no, like, you're gonna have a babysitter, and that really didn't sit well with Jesse. I will say I gave this book a 4, not necessarily for the content, because the babysitting parts were not my favorite, but I think what we unfold in this book is more of Jesse's character that we haven't gotten so far. Mostly we've gotten Jessie being this very one-dimensional character where she is essentially just the perfect person, right? Which is not true for anybody, but in this book we see more three-dimensional feelings from her. We see her sort of acting out against her Aunt Cecilia, being in the household. And so I just like that we got to see other parts of Jessie. I don't think Jessie is, I don't think she gets the justice in the books that she deserves, because I don't think anybody of color was writing for her. But I think overall this was a pretty good book. So I will just give you the covers because the covers are always amazing. And I have just about all except maybe 30 of the original covers in books, and so I'm still collecting the rest of my missing pieces, but I kind of paused for a while. But so this one was a 4-star for me. The last book that I read this week, which is actually the first book that I read for the week, is the one that I want to deep dive on. So I read The Reappearance of Rachel Price. This was a Book of the Month Club pick in April. I did not get it, but I picked it up at Barnes, and I got the Barnes exclusive. The only thing that I think is really different is the design. You have this camera, and the inside is designed. And so that was sort of the exclusive part. But this book, I ended up giving, did I give it 4? I think I gave it 4 stars. This book, if you've read any of Holly Jackson's books, you know she does this like YA murder mystery thing, and it definitely gives the same vibe as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. However, in this book, we're following Belle, and we open up with a documentary crew coming in to interview Belle and people in her town about the disappearance of her mother. The story is that Belle and her mother went to the mall. They were on the camera one moment, and then off the camera the next, and excuse me, and then Belle was found in the car with just like the heat on, but the car running, but nobody there. So Belle's dad has raised her, and they're going over this whole documentary, and lo and behold, the mom, Rachel, reappears. And so the whole time that we are uncovering, like, how did Rachel appear, we're also learning the dynamics, right? So Belle is not very excited about her mom coming back into her life because she really hasn't been raised with her. She was like just shy of 2 when her mom disappeared. So she's not like, she doesn't have any like real connection with her mom. And so she's confused. Her mom comes in, very much being the mom, right? She's sending lots of red flags. She says that she was in somebody's basement for the 16 years that she was gone. She says that the person who held her let her out the car, but there's like inconsistencies in the story. Like one time she says the person let her out the car and the car engine was running. Then she says one time it wasn't. And then she talks about being in captive for 15 years, but it was 16. And so Belle has her like spidey sense up and starts trying to investigate what really happened to Rachel and why she disappeared. And when we get to the core of what happened, holy moly, it is definitely more than I had anticipated. I think overall, this book is very well written and very captivating. I like the way that Holly Jackson sort of writes her main characters and trying to figure out like what went on. I think the only thing about this book that did not get 5 pages, I think a lot of people have said this, is that this book is, hold on, this book is, I'm going to tell you how many pages it is because it's important that you know. This book is 430 pages. It does not need to be 430 pages. This is a YA, okay, chunker. This is a YA murder mystery. We could have taken out like 100 to 125 pages and been just fine with this book. I think there's a lot of time spent in lull, right? Like, and we know if you're investigating a missing person, it doesn't go from A to Z in a breath. But since we're in a book, we could speed up time a little bit. But there's just some parts that were very drawn out for seemingly no reason. And so I think that's what lowers the score for me. I did start this, so I started reading it. And then, what was I doing? I was doing something one night and decided to pop on the audio because it was on Spotify Premium. And that was like the best decision I could have made because it really helped me get past the lull in the beginning. And then I listened to that all the way until maybe about the last 80-ish or 100 pages. And that really helped me a lot to get through this quickly, but also to understand it. I did have it at 2.2. Did I have a 2.2? Yeah, I had it at 2.2 speed. Usually I listen to things at 2 times speed, but it was still going slow. And then I had it at 2.5, but it's too fast. I went to 2.2. And that was the perfect speed for me because the audio, like they just talk slow in the entire thing. However, I highly recommend this book, but I do recommend the audio version of it. There's only one voice actor, but I think overall it was done really well. So I would say this is definitely worth it, and I loved that book. So those are all the books that I read this week and the books that I purchased this week, aside from my middle grade books. So make sure you check out my video on Thursday so you could see what I purchased for my middle grade books. And comment down below what you read this week and tell me what you think about the books that I read. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.